Pleasure to have you on as well. I came from a startup before coming to FreightWaves, and every startup has the amazing story. Like, how was the foundation? Some people start in garages, some people not garages. I feel like it's one or the other nowadays. But, tell us a little bit about the founding of TruckSmarter and kind of how did you all decide to go into this space?
Yeah, so a very quick history about me. Right before TruckSmarter, I actually worked at Uber Freight. So had an incredible opportunity to just learn as much as I can about the freight industry, but then also just see how technology is just radically improving the industry across on the shipper side, the broker side, and the driver side. But just during my time at Uber Freight, one of the things that we constantly heard was that for drivers, there's a ton of great innovation that's happening by getting access to loads faster and being able to interface with them through a mobile app. But the industry was still just extremely fragmented, right? So there are still just so many brokers out there. The average carrier that we've seen, that we've worked with, can sometimes work up to 50 to 100 plus different load providers throughout a given year. It's still an incredibly fragmented industry. And from just many of the conversations that we've had with drivers when I interface with them at Uber Freight was, we would just love a place to see all this in a single place, in a single format, in a way for us to just discover different opportunities out there without having to go to the dozens of different applications out there, learn about them, download them, and basically just find a great discovery tool to learn and then build those relationships and build that loyalty and build those contractor lanes that a lot of drivers love to have.
Well, I feel like that's one of the biggest problems is that we have all of these technologies with load board apps, but each broker has their own. They don't like sharing. And then as a driver, you have like 20 of them. And so it almost feels like the biggest problem, like you said, is there's just way too much choice and no one's figured out that if you can make it simpler, you may have better luck with retention and stickiness.
Exactly. And I think the important thing to note is that the world before these, disparate digital apps, like as you've mentioned, was also very painful, right? Even more painful. You had to phone, you had to fax, you had to text, you had to email. It started off with a lot of pain, right? And then there's a lot of great innovation that's happening. But for us, we kind of saw this as a natural next step, which is like now everything can be accessed digitally. The barriers to entry are getting lower, which is great for the industry, right? It brings more drivers into the industry. But now there just needs to be a better way to interface with all these different technologies in a single place.
And for folks who are unfamiliar with the app, how does the platform work and what are kind of the key functional benefits of what you all are working on?
Yeah, so the way that we work is quite simple, right? We bring many of the top brokerages into a single place. We make it super easy for you to do all of your booking, bidding, all within the app. You can manage your business within the app itself. And the target for us was to start with mobile first, right? Our sole focus, our primary focus, are owner operators, small fleets, like you've mentioned, folks that don't necessarily have that access to loads in an easy, digestible format, right? So we focused, we met the driver where they are. A lot of owner operators, small fleets, their phone is their computer on the road. And we built a platform solely for that, for them to interface and then use that as a way to effectively manage their entire business.
And looking at, is that kind of we're also thinking in terms like TMS. So the big goal is being the one-stop shop, right? In terms of tracking updates, TMS, dispatching, and then finding the loads. Is that kind of one of the big goals is just centralization?
Yeah, I think for us, from a load execution standpoint, we still work with many of the TMS providers and many brokers as well to execute that. We kind of focus on discovery, which is the first thing that a driver thinks about when they wake up and they don't have a job is, I need to find a job, right? It's just so simple. And we want to be that platform for them to effectively find that next job, find these great opportunities that they might not have heard of before on the lanes that they love to run. But then kind of hand that off, right, to the brokers who they're working with, and we plug into both TMSs and brokers directly to help facilitate those transactions.
And how's the search been? I remember when I was a broker, I would keep calling owner-operated and carriers, but half the problem was like when you looked at a list, they like either went out of business or it was really hard to just like find them. Was there any secret magic towards growing the platform that you reach these folks? Because I literally feel like One of the craziest ones I saw was a Facebook group was considered a large owner-operator community, and it feels like even the community networking aspects are a little old school.
Yeah, I think, for us, it's really building a community for the owner operators and small fleets on our platform. I think you got to solve the first problem, right? Which is just, but the problem both on the broker side and the carrier side, which is finding capacity or finding freight, right? And today that problem is still quite tenuous, like you've mentioned. For a lot of small and mid-sized brokers, it's hard to get great liquidity. It's hard to find a very reliable carrier that they can constantly work with, especially in a market as dynamic as it is today. And helping eliminate a lot of that noise and increase the frequency and the speed for carriers to find these opportunities, that's kind of the big focus for us, right? And on the community side, we always lean on our driver base to tell us what they need, right? We do a weekly, we call it a clubhouse, where drivers can just come in and talk and share, and half of our team goes every single week. And we get all of our ideas and we throw out a lot of the different things that we're building and really work with that community to build that connection.
And you mentioned kind of the financing and payment part. I remember it can be like net 30, net 45. When I was a broker, I had like net 120 sometimes because I just wouldn't want to pay stuff.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges? What kind of made you all want to pivot as well and add in like, the payment, fixing that kind of problem as well?
Yeah, the way we think about it is the first thing that a driver thinks about is finding that next job. The second is getting paid, right? The way that the industry works today is that it takes anywhere from 30, 45, sometimes up to what you've mentioned, 120 days to get paid on a load. And, for an owner operator, small fleet that might not have that much working capital, that's a death sentence, right? And it's especially with costs rising as we see it today, it becomes extremely hard for an owner operator to really navigate that industry. So that we kind of saw that as an opportunity as if they're finding their loads on TruckSmarter, let's just make it super easy for them to also get paid for their loads, right? And create a bank account where they could get those payments instantly, have access to a debit card where they could access, fuel or whatever it is instantly once those invoices are approved. So we kind of just saw that, and we were listening to our customers, and we just saw that as a natural progression of our business.
Well, that's what kind of reminds me of like regular factoring companies. They don't offer you a lot of stuff for finding loads of the business. So you simply just send them the invoices, they take the invoices, they collect, and then they take the cut to send it. But was that something where, especially attracting investment and with your Series B, was that kind of one of the extra added on things that you all are working on in terms of making this more modular to grow? Because I know like TriumphPay and a few other folks, it feels like no one's dabbling into actually helping solve the business problems.
Yeah, the way we kind of position our business is tackling the first, second, third order workflows of a truck driver today, right? And you got to start with the first pain, then the second pain, then the third pain. And our goal and our vision is to build this ecosystem of products where we effectively do become that one-stop shop, right? For a driver to find their loads, get paid for their loads, and find great opportunities to get savings on the money that they have earned on the road, right? Whether it's looking at the entire cost line of a driver, there's just so many opportunities where, with the scale that we are continuously having and growing, we can really give some great opportunities for them on the cost side as well.
And I always throw in there challenges or surprises as you're building this app. Usually as a startup, you start with one direction, then you find out there's a lot of other potential things that are coming at you. What were some things that surprised you coming from Uber and your experiences? Or what were some things that you thought, well, heck, this is a surprising thing I didn't expect?
Well, I think for us, what's great about this industry is that it's huge, right? There are so many problems and there's so many areas of opportunities. So many companies are doing incredible things to tackle all these different areas. I think for us, and this is, I think, a challenge with many startups, is just focusing, right? And, we want to be this one-stop shop. That does mean that we have to tackle a number of different products and build very meaningful business units around each of these different products. And having the ability to really focus and cut through the noise and really focus on the one or two or three things that really matter to our audience, that's always kind of been like this constant challenge that we, and I'm sure many startups have to go through on a day-to-day basis.
And, talking about, congratulations, by the way, again on your Series B. Looked like it was led by Thrive Capital. You had folks like Anderson Horowitz as well, and a few other folks. What's that like for people unfamiliar with the startup world? Well, you're doing seed, your Series A or Series B. Is that something where you're just going to have to go in and keep finding more folks, or do people come after you? Like, what's the VC world like for folks when you're in the trucking space and everyone's thinking of other tech apps like grocery deliveries and other things like that?
I think for us, it's kind of positioning just the opportunity in the space, right? It's, trucking in the logistics space, as I'm sure everybody and all the listeners know, it's huge. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. If you zero it down to just truck drivers in America, 72% of freight sits on the bed of a truck. You can't think of a more impactful, or I can't think of a more impactful industry that just has a ton of existing problems and existing opportunities to really build in, right? And I think if you kind of look into the tech investors and other investors in the space, that's what's really attractive. And I think that's what's getting a lot of attention. And if you look past the last 2-3 years, before COVID, freight was kind of, it wasn't getting a lot of the attention from Silicon Valley. Now it's, I feel like everybody's thinking about it because they really feel the pain of what happens when the supply chain is just not stable enough with the demand that we saw right during the COVID peak, and it just really highlighted all the different opportunities and the ways that a lot of players could really make a meaningful impact in this industry.
Well, that's why I feel like I joke. No one pays attention to logistics until the packages are late. And then you're like, why is my package late? And I'm like, I've been in here for 7 years. Like, it's always been late. You just never noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when, when Amazon Prime goes from overnight to 3 days, right? Which is still fantastic. Like it's like a miracle in infrastructure, that we haven't seen, even just like 5 or 10 years ago. And all of a sudden now everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? Like this instant gratification is no longer here. There's a problem here, right? And I think that's kind of what we saw a lot of that just accelerated that kind of focus in the last few years.
So with collecting data, obviously you're being a startup, you're working on understanding the ideal user. For folks who don't understand what small carriers and owner operators, what does it kind of look like based on the folks you work with? What's kind of the style of these trucking? I came from enterprise trucking, so it's a whole other beast, but who are the most common types of folks you're working with, and what are some of their things that they're trying to accomplish?
What I love about who we work for are that these are the entrepreneurs that are trying to make an impact both on just moving goods, but then also on their lives as well. And so we just, when we talk with an interface with our customers, it's an incredibly, ownership first, entrepreneurial group that we love to work with. And they're always thinking about ways to make their business, their lives on the road better. And that's what gives us so much encouragement as well to continue to invest, right? Because there's just such a great audience there that's constantly giving us that feedback. So I think for us, it's like, to start a trucking business, and I'm sure you're familiar, it's tough, right? Especially to be an owner operator in this small fleet and really start from scratch and owning that trailer, leasing that trailer, and really building a business, it's not easy. So to get over that hump requires a ton of, that mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, which makes it for such a great audience to build for.
And there was a TechCrunch article, I did a little bit of research prior, that said the Zillow of trucking. And so I'm kind of curious, was that some of the opportunity and the vibe of having that visibility, or what would be, instead of the Zillow of trucking, what would be kind of how you'd like to describe the app eventually becoming?
Yeah, I think for us, it's, Zillow is kind of gives a picture of where we feel a lot of this industry is going, right? It's like before Zillow, you'd have to reach out to a lot of your real estate brokers and agents one by one and build up that relationship. And a lot of these real estate agents and brokers had their own digital platforms, their own websites. And all of a sudden, for a consumer that's looking to buy a home, that's still like quite intensive to do. And you don't know where to list, you don't know where to find. And then you have places like Zillow that helps really build a great user interface to combine all that. We see this everywhere, right? Travel with Kayak, and Expedia, food delivery with like DoorDash and other players like in Uber Eats. We kind of see that with the trucking industry as well, which is there's just such great opportunities out there, but the discovery piece is still a pain point for many owner operators and small fleets out there. And that's kind of where we see as like that next evolution of just bringing everything into a single place to both amplify discovery and ultimately make both sides their lives better.
That's what kind of blows my mind because drivers live inside the rigs, the Class 8s. You've got your bunk. So the Zillow of trucking part of me says, well, here's a few extra trucks in this area. Maybe I can like buy one lightly used and see the inside of it. And, I think there's an opportunity there if you can find out where the heck they are to have a legit Zillow within a Zillow. Instead of flipping houses, you just flip trucks. Just don't buy them like Zillow did because right now it's like they're going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah. And I think for us, it's, that's kind of like what I was talking to about with there's a lot of opportunities, right? It's like you just have such a captive audience and there's just so many areas for us to build it. And, these are the many of the things that we can look into over time as well.
And looking into ideas as well as direction, having the finance component, getting to collect data on the finances, help, potentially figure out as well with a card, like buying habits and patterns. There's a lot of opportunity in that data because I talked to somebody that worked for Hershey's and they wanted to find out how much candy was bought at truck stops. And the issue was nobody knew. And so is that kind of one of those things where the drivers can get added benefits as well in value based on using this card? Here's the data. I can show you what your spend is, but I can also maybe give you deals.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we're looking to really build, right? Is how do you build this whole suite of financial services that can make your life a lot easier on the road, right? There's obviously expenses are high. You look at the first expense, fuel. That's what drivers are thinking about. Second expense, your trailer. There are just so many opportunities once you have all that data to really help optimize and find those opportunities to get the best deals within the industry. So that's definitely an area that we're looking into quite aggressively.
And, being in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, you're in the nexus of it. You get to talk with a lot of people, obviously, with you doing your series rounds and stuff. Is there anything that folks are looking into that maybe a lot of the audience wouldn't know as like the next thing? I know a lot of folks in Silicon Valley are talking about, in terms of shooting ideas and stuff, but I'll share you mine. Buying truck stops and making them private access only. Somebody told me that one time. Is there anything cool that you all are looking at over the horizon that potentially, far out skunkwork style stuff?
Within the trucking industry?
Yeah, within the trucking industry in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for us, it's, something that we're excited about is how do we leverage this network of drivers that are actively booking loads and finding loads on our platform. And that's just an incredible amount of scale and data, right? That we can use to help optimize so many other things with, specifically with truck stops, right? It's like, how do we help optimize their stops better? How do we, help optimize their cost side and give them the right type of places for them to stop that actually reduces their costs, might increase a little bit of their travel time. But, with all the information that we have, we can effectively say that, hey, this actually be net positive for you, right? I think that's kind of the vision and the goal for us is just, our mission is empowering truck drivers' lives. How do we make their life on the road that much easier with the data set that we have and leverage our scale to effectively build those negotiations and have those deals across the board?
Well, so that kind of reminds me of networking effects. It's a race to get that critical mass. As you're working on it, is it kind of a word of mouth thing, or do you? I know a lot of media publications like FreightWaves, we try to reach out to folks, but so far for app growth and user count, is it pretty much a word of mouth, or is there a specific place you can go and say, post it on a truck stop and say, hey, check this out?
Yeah, I think we've been super lucky with the growth that we've had today, right? So we've spent $0 on ads. The platform, we're now over 100,000 active small fleets owner operators on the platform today. A lot of that has been word of mouth and referrals, and folks just kind of sharing like, hey, here's a great mobile first, great user interface way to find loads, right? And I think for us, kind of focusing on that first order pain point, first order problem, is what's giving us this opportunity to just have multiple at bats to convince a carrier and owner operator to give us a try, right? And give us that opportunity for them to check out our, what type of opportunities are on our platform. So for us, we've been super lucky about it, and we will continue to rely on our network of relationships to continue to grow our business.
And looking like opening the doors on that, having a large carrier base, being able to have the data, have the driver information, brokerages need that info. Is that something where with load boards, is there a good strategy just to recommend all the loads, or is it something like a Google search where you can get ad sponsors and pay? Like, how does it work in terms of driver feedback? Do they just want to see everything, or do they want like targeted stuff?
It's interesting. Like I think it's for the type of, person that we're building for, there's a lot of this type of autonomy of being able to find the best opportunity for them. So kind of, I think we've tested this before, which is like, oh, we'll target, we'll help like give you, serve an opportunity for drivers to take. But, I think drivers still love to bid on loads and interface with a number of different loads and frankly, build those relationships themselves, right? So we don't want to get in the way of that. But I do think there's opportunities for us to kind of make a richer platform for both sides, both on the driver and the broker side, by helping plug some of the pieces that they wouldn't ordinarily have, and get a good sense of kind of like where are the density, where are the hot spots, where's the right density, where is there an opportunity to build density. These are all things that we could effectively help piece the puzzle together for all parties.
Well, I feel like that was half the problem. When I was a broker, we would just manually call, like, 10 calls an hour, 100 calls a day, and you're just calling people, and you hope you build the density and the internal stuff. Like, it was such a pain in the neck. So, feedback-wise from carriers and brokers, how have the early feedback been in terms of impression and stuff?
It's been fantastic, right? I think we've, with many of the brokers that we partner with, we're very quickly becoming the top load board that they're seeing, because there's just so much activity on the platform and there's just so many eyes, right? So that just helps reduce a ton of the cost side for the broker side, and just having access to the capacity that they might not ordinarily have. So I think that's kind of the feedback, which is, the world is going digital. This industry is going digital. There's just so many different opportunities out there for everybody, but the industry is still very fragmented, right? And having that central platform that brings everything together will continue to make this industry more efficient and better.
And kind of closing thoughts here as well, if folks are interested in reaching out, learning more about the platform, do you just simply like sign up, or what are the processes to get involved and get on the platform itself?
Yeah, I think the load board itself is completely free, right? That's actually been one of the key, I'm sure one of the key reasons for our growth today is that we feel that, a driver that's starting their own business, having access to valuable information out there should be free for them, and for them to kind of help build their business. So it is as simple as signing up. We do verify that you're a real driver. We want to make sure that if you are bidding on loads or reaching out to brokers, that we're not sending unnecessary noise, right? I think that's kind of one of the bigger challenges. How do you, really get great leads and great capacity reaching out to you? So there is a verification check, but the load board is completely free to use.
Perfect. Dan, thanks so much for coming on. Looking forward to seeing the developments as well, and future funding rounds. Always got to say in the start, well, congratulations on the recent raise as well, and looking forward to talking again soon.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's going to be it for this Loaded and Rolling episode, but you can catch us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Normally we're doing it live. There's also a special F3 edition hiding around somewhere. Our folks are editing it right now. Got to interview a few people as well. This will get turned into a podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you like your favorite podcasts. In addition, we have a newsletter, FreightWaves.com/loadedandrolling comes out every Wednesday and Saturday. That's a wrap for today, though. I'm Thomas Wasson, Enterprise Trucking Carrier here at FreightWaves, the expert. Join us next week. We'll do it live.